All right, cool. So let's go ahead and talk about where do we start using these fitness trackers. Okay, this is really what this whole thing is about. Where do we start using these fitness trackers for heart rate training? Okay, so the first thing that we got to do before we start anything is we got to calculate or at least estimate what our max heart rate is. Okay, so here is the formula. Write this down. It's really simple. Now there's more complicated formulas out there. Okay, but this is good. This will give you a good place to start. Okay. 220 minus your age, and that is your predicted max heart rate. Okay. So if you're 20 years old, okay, if you're 20, then you do 220 minus your age, and that is your predicted max heart rate. That means that's the fastest that your heart can potentially beat is 200 beats per minute. Okay. So that is the formula, 220 minus your age. If you're 40 years old, then your max heart rate is 180. Okay. If you're 50 years old, then your max heart rate is 170. Okay. So 220 minus your age, and that is your max heart rate. Okay. Or your predicted max heart rate. Okay. All right, cool. The next thing that we got to do is we've got to calculate 55% of that. Okay. So get your max heart rate. Let's just go with 200 because I'm not very good at math and I can do easy math. Okay. So let's say that your max heart rate is 200. Okay. And you're going to get 55% of that. So I'm going to multiply 200 times 0.55. Okay. And I'm going to get my answer, which is 110. Okay. So at my low point, in order for me to be in my fat target heart training zone, I need to be between 55 and 75% of my max heart rate. So my bottom number is 110. Okay, I did 220 minus my age if I'm 20 years old. Okay, that gives me 200. And I did times 0.55 for 55%, and that gave me 110. So my low rate is 110 beats per minute. Okay, now let's calculate the high range, 75%. We want to get 75% of my max heart rate. So again, if I'm 20 years old, I do 75%. So 220 minus my age, which is 20, that gives me 200. That's my max heart rate. Then I multiply that by 0.75 for trying to calculate 75%, and that gives me 150. So my target heart training zone is between 110 and 150. Okay, perfect. And that's where we want to be. Okay, now this is just where we start. This gives you a place to start. Now, as long as you're, now again, this is just a place to start. This is not an exact science, but it gives you relatively about where you need to be. Okay, so if you haven't been using any formula whatsoever, or you haven't been doing any kind of standard whatsoever, you're just going out and walking, for example. Okay, Nathan, if you've been walking, okay, check. Do your math on all the things that we just talked about, and then see if your heart rate is within that area. Okay. Now, if it hasn't been in that area, then you need to do something else that is going to get your heart rate up between, let's just use that example, between 110 and 150. Okay. So you've got to do a different type of activity that's going to help you maintain 110 to 150 for at least 30 minutes, right? Because 20 minutes you're burning carbs, and then you'll burn at least 10 minutes of fat. Okay. So do that, and then let's see where it goes. Okay. So that's a great place for you to start. Okay.